And we are continuing the conversation about mental health. Now, this is something that a lot of people struggle with and may not even know what to call it. Some call it the winter blues. Some people call it the seasonal affective disorder, seasonal depression. Whatever name that you call it, it does impact us in a great way. And so we want to bring in our therapist, licensed counselor here. We have Ashley Young, who is with Everyday Wellness here in Columbia. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us.
Me.
All right, so we have some viewer questions, and we want to start with the first question here. This is a viewer who says, I understand that the topic of discussion is about season depression. For me, I suffer mostly on rainy, gloomy days. Those are the days I cry a lot. I don't want to get out of bed. I think about loved ones who are no longer with me. Overall, I just feel down. Counselor Young, what advice can you share with individuals who may be experiencing similar symptoms on rainy, gloomy days to shift their focus and uplift their spirits?
Absolutely. Typically with depression, we tend to isolate and we tend to want to retreat. I think it's important to be reminded that community is helpful, having a supportive network to be able to share our feelings and our thoughts with. And if you don't have a trusted community or a support, there's also therapy. Seeking out someone that can walk alongside you to help reframe those thoughts, to help you validate and normalize your feelings, but more importantly, to feel heard and understood. Sometimes we just need room for our emotions to exist and someone to help us understand them.
Ashley, we've talked a lot about social media and the way that that can affect your feelings, whether it be comparing your body to others on social media or maybe just comparing your life, the trips people take. What's your advice? If somebody knows that they're already feeling vulnerable, what's your advice to somebody about how much they do or don't get on their phones?
Yeah, I think media consumption is highly underestimated. I think providing yourself a limit on media exposure, give yourself a time that you would engage with the media, because it is helpful to connect and is also a community for a lot of people, but being sure that you're not being overly consumed by it, because we can interpret things differently. You know, we don't know everyone else's struggles, and particularly people tend to post the brighter side of things. So I think it's helpful to give yourself balance and boundaries as it relates to media consumption.
All right, and I think we do have another viewer question here. Let's take a look at this. It says, treatment options for seasonal depressions. What are some of those options, Ashley?
Right, so we talked about the light therapy before, and we also mentioned counseling. There's also antidepressants, seeking a provider to get some assistance with that. Vitamin D is highly underestimated. When we are vitamin D deficient, we tend to feel more sluggish and more down. And so there are supplements that can be helpful. Again, counseling is important, leveraging community, going for walks, journaling. There's so much therapeutic value in journaling, just processing your thoughts so you're getting it out and not sitting with it throughout the day. All of those things can be helpful depending on the person.
And Ashley, I was able to come visit you during one of the commercial breaks, and one of the things we talked about was awareness and how important it is to continue to have this conversation. Can you speak to why we shouldn't just hold this in if we are struggling, but speak to others about it, and not just once in a while, but it needs to be a consistent conversation?
Absolutely. I think there's so much power in awareness and normalizing it. It's a reminder that we're not in it alone. And typically the onset of seasonal affective disorder typically is between the ages of 18 and 30. And so the awareness and the reflection to be able to go back is like, for me, in this season, have I felt this way before? And the answer is yes, and it helps me plan ahead for the future so we're not caught off guard and we can mitigate some of these stressors, challenges in advance.
All right, we know that we are just about a week, or wait, today Thursday, yeah, we're 1 week away from Thanksgiving. So many people won't be able to spend their time on the holidays with their loved ones. What's your advice to people who are feeling that anxiety, whether they've lost loved ones or whether they're not going to be able to make it home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, to really tackle the holiday and not let it get you down?
Yeah, grief is so complicated. I think remembering that everyone grieves differently. Be in tune with yourself, right? If you're not feeling like socializing, if you need time to reflect and you want time to honor your loved one in peace, feel free to do that. If you want to leverage community, there's also Zoom and social media. If you're not able to be there in person, schedule a Zoom visit around the dinner table and fellowship together that way. But I also think that it's okay to have moments of isolation. I don't want anyone to misunderstand that. Moments of isolation can be helpful because sometimes we need to take a break away from our norms to be able to sit with our thoughts, process our feelings, but also reflect and journal and be able to honor our loved ones in their absence, right? So you don't have to feel alone, but some alone time with moderation can be very helpful for individuals.
Ashley, your wisdom on this topic is so valuable. We thank you for waking up extra early for us to have this very, very important conversation. Thank you for what you're doing for our community. And my friends, you know, you hear me say this all the time, there is never any shame in getting help.